Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Dragons of Power. I'm Steve.
And I'm Alex.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Steve. We like to have fun.
Love to have fun. Steve, how are you?
I'm okay. What are I'm okay. The weather's been a little gloomy this week in New York.
Just a little bit. We got all the remnants of the hurricane from Florida.
Yeah.
Lucky us. Fun, fun, fun.
I know.
Yeah. But luckily none of the horrible rain that came from Mt.Doom in Rings of Power this week.
Yo, that thing is not gonna get better.
It's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Seeing that was like, well, there's no genie's out of the bottle now.
Seriously, Genie is out of the bottle in quite a few ways. Yeah, we're Tarantinoing things a little bit. We should maybe not start at the ending, but we should maybe go from the beginning of the episode forward.
Sure.
I actually thought that this was definitely the strongest episode of Rings of Power so far, but unfortunately, for as good as it was, there were also a lot of pitfalls that I think it fell into. I think some of the dialogue fell a little flat this week. I think that, like, as a general criticism of the show, the writing does need to be better.
Yeah, there's been some moments that I thought, that was rushed, or that was vague, or that was glossed over.
Because it's like you will get a scene like the one we had last week with Durin and Elrond, where Elrond has to tell Durin the truth about why they need the Mithril.
Right.
Which was fucking remarkable. And then this week we get the like, this will be our keep, believe it, like, speech before the whole fight thing. And I have thoughts about the Galadriel Adar scene as well too.
Oh yeah, I would love to talk about that. That was a strong scene. Very much stood out. I think I hear what you're saying. I wasn't rubbed the wrong way by the speech by Arondir. It had to be brief. It had to be quick. I thought it was pretty good. It did seem like a missed opportunity to do something Tolkien, something referential to Tolkien instead of "Do you believe it?" Could have been by the light of Elendil of Erendil, or something. I mean, I know that they were men and he's an elf, so they don't necessarily appreciate each other's culture. But I felt like that was the moment for some sort of Tolkien reference or some kind of whatever, and it didn't fully rub me the wrong way, but I see what you see. I don't.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I also think that let's track through the whole episode. So we start with the orcs coming. Well, we start with the scene with Adar planting the seeds.
Right.
New life, defiance of death, which that was cool. His elf heritage and the scene of him giving the speech to the orcs was really cool.
Amazing. Unbelievable. Yeah. Just really, really, really cool. I love how he is showing us a side to Uruks that is a bit more multifaceted than Peter Jackson allowed. Not much more. They still are like horror movie set pieces, they're still definitely out of a horror movie, which isn't necessarily how orcs have to be, but it's how they've gone. And that's definitely a precedent set by Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
That was, I thought it was so good. So
good.
And
then they fell right into that clever little trap of theirs.
Yes.
How did the men get around them from the tower to get back to the town, though?
Maybe it wasn't all the men. Oh, to get around them. Oh, I see what you're saying. To ambush them in a way, right?
How'd they get out of the way?
I hadn't considered. I kind of just. Yeah, I went along for that ride. What was the other way to get there? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. The short answer is I don't know.
That's the shit I. But that whole fight scene was really clever. The breaking of the tower was very cool.
Yeah, I thought that was great, and I didn't. I believed it very quickly because Arondir had been stationed there for so long. He would know. I would think he would have a pretty good sense of the structural, you know, structural components to this tower that would make for a good ambush. Um, I believed it. I thought all of that was paced really well. It was set up really well. I followed it, smoothly. It was a very, very well executed action sequence.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give a nod to Charlotte Brandstrom, who directed this episode. I think it was one of the best directed episodes that we've had, simply because we stayed with two storylines and then they were wedded in a very, very nice way. There was great suspense. It moved. I understand that other episodes, yes, I understand other episodes have to set up relationships and dialogue and places and build worlds. We needed this episode. I think Galadriel really needed this episode. We needed to see her fighting and commanding, and we needed to see her winning on the battlefield. I thought it was very effective for her character.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that interrogation scene between her and Adar.
Let's get there. Let's go through the rest of the episode first.
Okay.
Yeah, we're jumping around. I kind of like the writing of the show. So after that, so they bring the tower down. We have their stupid scene. They set up their ambush. They ambush the orcs, and then we find out that it was orcs and humans, which how they snuck them in there, I don't know, especially since they gave us no other hint of that. We only saw orcs throughout the whole thing. That scene where the orc was about to poke Arundel in the eye was horrifying.
Yeah, it was scary, yeah.
Yep.
I think that they could have given us some sort of like interaction between a Southlander that was defending themselves and a Southlander that was dressed as an orc.
Yes.
And I mentioned that because the only orcs that they did trick us, but they tricked us in a way that seemed
Cheap.
a little cheap. It's
Yeah.
like, we're only going to show the people you don't think are there until they discover that they're there. So in a way, we saw it from the Southlanders' perspective. I still think it's a little bit too Scooby-Doo of like, like, come on, like I don't know. They showed only orcs that were there fighting in that whole sequence.
Yeah, the thing that you could sell me with that whole sequence too is I need one little bit of an orc shoving a human that doesn't want to go fight these people, right?
Oh,
like with
ahead
them.
of time. Well,
Yes, I
think they just wanted a reveal. I think they were hoping that would be a surprise. It's how they chose to tell that part of the story. Yeah.
Then the arrows just so once they found that out and they're all horrified and the arrows just coming out of nowhere, that was cool. It was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping for them to just kill everyone, which they do later, kind of. But
a lot. They picked a lot off.
Yeah. Bronwyn should have died, in my opinion. That scene of them saving her.
I thought she was going to.
Same.
I really thought she was going to. I thought they set it up well. She told that little nighttime lullaby to Theo before the battle. I thought they were setting up a really good goodbye. They kept her alive, I think, for the exchange of the sword, because that's what provoked.
Yeah.
He almost lost her. She almost died before his very eyes. And then she didn't. She barely made it through by the skin of her teeth through emergency tactical medicine.
Exactly.
It's a huge loss of blood, I might add. And a very lackadaisical attitude towards pressing that wound.
No. Okay, the editing for that sequence was terrible.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a little. I think they were trying to toy with us. I think that's why some moments were drawn out, but it started to push me into, oh, they don't care about the the physics of the physical laws of
Yeah.
nature in this scene. They're stretching it out just to
Right.
toy with us, and it didn't
Yeah.
seem within the stakes of the world or within our world.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the rules are because this is a fantasy world, right? So I guess um, you don't have to be as on it when somebody's bleeding out in two different holes. Hey now, um, this is a family show,
No.
so
I,
they
that. Go ahead. Sorry.
it's a family show, so I guess they saved her.
Yeah, I agree, but I just think that like if that's what you're going to do in the writing, the editing needs to be better to reflect that. I think because like I'm sitting there the whole time, like all that blood coming out, she's definitely dead. Like them pulling that thing out, definitely dead. When they finally pull the thing out, and that like moment in between Theo rubbing the fucking seeds on there, and then like she could have easily died in that moment. Like that to me completely suspends my disbelief, or like brings my disbelief back into the world of like absolutely not. That is terrible.
Yeah, and I thought it was a shame because again, the actors are killing it.
Yeah.
The you know, I think that that action, that whole again, the whole fight, the sequence, the suspense, it was a great journey in terms of story and action. And then anyway, these are details, but unfortunately, they're significant enough to
Right.
have thrown off the flow, I thought, of the responses.
Right.
What I keep finding with this show is my first look at certain things has me go, huh. And then
Mm.
if I rewatch it, I go, oh, it's not that bad. And
Yeah.
yet, that's not necessarily what you want in a show, right? You want it to make sense the first time around, and if it doesn't make sense, you want it to have some sort of rewatch value, where there's something deeper that maybe
Yeah.
was hidden there. And I just, yeah, I agree. There's some moments in the editing, um, and some of the writing that I think, I hope this gets better for season two. That
Yeah.
I share that criticism. That's a good example of it. Yeah. All right. What
Yeah.
else?
But then after that, Adar gets the sword, and then the riders show up.
Yes. And
Yeah.
right before he gives it to Waldrig, he says, "I have." What does he say? I have something, a task for you, or something.
Mhm.
By the way, Waldrig, played by Jeff Morrell or Morrell, I'm not exactly sure, is bringing so much to that role. So much intrigue, so much conflict, such great
Yeah.
range so far. By I think it was the episode where he confronts Theo after Theo kills the orc with the sword, and Waldrig's
Mhm.
kind of drunk. He's like, "Yeah, have a belt of my scotch after what
Right.
you've been through." And he gives him that whole scene. I was like, this character is like so strong. He's selling it. He's bringing me into this world. He's
Yeah.
really, really bringing me into what it's like there. You know,
Right.
a real like man on the street um character where I find him very believable, very realistic, and very necessary. And it could be one of those roles that I just didn't expect to like him. And I don't necessarily like the character. I like the
Mhm.
purpose that this character serves, and I really like how well Jeff Morrell is playing him. I think
Agreed.
I just it's so refreshing to see someone um carrying their weight.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
such a magnificent way that really furthers the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so then we get that unbelievable fight scene with Galadriel and the men of Numenor and the riders of Numenor, which was so well done. Uh the chase scene was unbelievable.
I thought it was
Uh
great.
yeah, that was so great. Halbrand looks fucking awesome
Yeah.
in his
Something this episode did different. I hadn't noticed this, especially in the interrogations. Oh, I get it. I'll wait. I want to talk about it so badly. But I'll mention it again. Something that this episode did really well is use of like Dutch angles, especially during that. They did it in the chase to give you a sense of the decline and the
Right.
incline of where these horses were going, and you see it again. Those angles are used again in the interrogation scene between Galadriel and Adar. But I loved the chase. I loved Halbrand showing up. There were some naysayers on Reddit, of course, saying, oh, they traveled so far. How could he have like shown up right at the last moment? Well, he claims to be from there. Odds are he knew, how he could cut them off. I don't know. It didn't. It made sense to me. It didn't bother me.
Yeah, it worked in the moment. I mean, he just went a different way.
Yeah.
He went a different way. Whatever. That's fine. It was a good payoff. I do wish they didn't have that shot. They were like, ooh, our audience is going to be worried about the horse. I really wish they wouldn't have had that instant shot of the horse getting up after that. That cheapened the intensity of the scene for me. That was them being like, see, it's okay. The horse is okay. No animal.
Okay. Yeah. You weren't the only one who pointed that out. I saw other people make comments about that, of like, I get it that they wanted to reassure us, but it was such an extra little like.
Yeah, that was like straight up breaking the fourth wall.
I don't know if it was. Oh, okay. I mean, again, borderline for me. For me, it was borderline of like, I see why you did that, and I know it has very little to do with the story. There's a lot of horse girls interested in this show.
That also must have been such a dangerous fucking stunt to do too. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, they must have. I mean, but that's in like every medieval fantasy, any medieval fantasy movie or TV show has a horse getting its legs knocked out from underneath it, throwing the rider. I wonder how they do it.
I am very curious how they did that. I'm looking forward to the like how we made this. Yeah, okay, so they capture Adar. Halbrand's about to kill him. Galadriel saves his ass, and then we get the interrogation after that. And that scene was great.
Yeah.
Except for when he finishes telling the story about how he killed Sauron and he didn't want to see any more of his children die for Sauron. And Galadriel just immediately goes, I do not believe you. I'm like, that's huge fucking information, regardless if it's true or not. Let us fucking sit with that for a second. Let Galadriel sit with that for a second. Let her process what her next move is, as opposed to just saying, I don't believe you. You're lying.
Yeah, I hope that the reason why she's like that is because the next iteration of her that we're going to see is her taking, I hope, pauses.
Yeah.
Process. I think that's how her character is going to shift. I think it was in that moment. Well, I think it was like, sorry, you're not going to fool me. I'm too aware of this evil and how present it is, I suppose. But from a director's point of view, perhaps in terms of how that moment goes, then yeah, I think that would have been a good option of just a moment for her to at least be pensive,
right,
before she says the line, I don't believe you. It was a choice. They went with it. It was a little hurried. It doubles down on like Galadriel's like almost calcified outlook of her meaning and purpose. And it was more of the same, I think. And it could have been, you're right. I think there's a moment there that they missed. Again, just one moment of like, is he telling the truth?
Yeah.
Am I a fool? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know why they
consideration of him saying I killed Sauron. She spent all this time searching for this, and then I think it's more interesting if she hears that, she processes it, and then she decides that she's not going to believe it.
Yeah.
Because that is a huge fucking piece of information. This has been her whole life's journey for thousands of years.
Yeah. But then again, if that's the case, then maybe because she spent so much time, she's very much like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she is right after all. We do learn that at the end of the episode. So then we have Halbrand's crowning. The dialogue was stupid. Dialogue was very bad. Very, very bad.
Trying they're trying to not tip their hand, but in the process, they're not delivering believable dialogue.
Yeah.
I think they're trying not to tip their hand at who is Halbrand really, and let's talk about that in a second. Because there's a lot to say about that after this episode.
Yep.
So I think they're not trying to tip their hand, but for some reason, I don't know. Maybe it'll make sense later. It's
Yeah.
getting a little tiring saying that
Yeah.
at this point after 6 episodes.
No.
Um,
Oh, they just need a new writing team.
I think so. Showrunners just broke their silence in an article recently about why things are about what they are. They talked about all the different ideas that were brought before the Tolkien estate before they produced Rings of Power. Like HBO, I think, wanted to do like an Aragorn series. Um, Netflix wanted to do like a Gandalf series, and they've been very, very strict. So the
That's
point
more.
is, Tolkien estate is really, really not going to release the rights to like the piece de resistance of Tolkien's work and his legendarium. They want people to read it for themselves to experience it, which is Tolkien's wishes. So
Yeah.
bearing that in mind, the show's doing a really good job because
Yeah.
they have to invent a lot. That said, the
Yeah.
way that this dialogue with the crowning of Halbrand went, I just think could have been better. I
It
just think,
could have been
again, it was a rushed moment that seems, you know, like you know how another rushed moment that they're not trying to tip the hand too early, that comes to mind is in Phantom Menace at the end of the movie during the award ceremony with the big music and everything that happens. Palpatine, who is a senator at the time, addresses young Anakin, and has one line, and it says, "And you, young Skywalker, we will watch your career with great enthusiasm," and just walks right past him. He says something so, it seems incredibly rude of Palpatine to be like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to see what you're gonna do." Hey, and like on to the next thing. It reminds me of that, of
Yeah.
like, okay, clearly there's something else going on and they're blowing past it, but it's too important of a moment to blow past.
Right. Exactly.
I'm trying to unpack all this because it Halbrand was trying to avoid this. There's some theory. So okay, let's get into it.
Yeah.
After watching this episode, it strongly seems like they want us to think Halbrand is Sauron.
Yes.
I was looking through some theories. Some people think the whole scene with him in Numenor, uh, warming up to the blacksmiths, appealing to Alfarazon when Galadriel broke free, and he told him exactly where Galadriel went, how he's working the angles, how he carried himself, how he broke that guy's arm. It's all indications of, well, except for breaking of the arm, but a repentant side of this guy. And he even says, I did things that once you learn of what I did, you're not going to think I'm an ally anymore. So I just really don't want to go back. And I don't want to. This perhaps is reminiscent or is inspired by Sauron's repentant stage when he made his way to Numenor, uh, offering gifts, trying to make nice with the world of men, and coming across as repentant. So perhaps, and since they didn't have the rights to the material, perhaps they invented. They're creating a new character, a new persona for Sauron to inhabit and project, and perhaps they've crafted those aspects of Sauron's story with his experiences in Numenor into Halbrand's captivity there, incidentally with Galadriel. But I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know why Halbrand would be out at sea at the right moment when Galadriel, who just swam how many leagues, would come upon them. I don't know how
Mhm.
that fits. And I don't know
Right.
who those other folks are. There's a theory that if he is Sauron, perhaps he commanded the worm in the
Mhm.
water. Like, perhaps
Well,
that would be kind of cool. He saved Galadriel, though, and that's what I don't understand. If he's Sauron, Galadriel is his greatest foe. Why would he save her?
right. To fuck with her.
No, he's trying to win. He's trying to take over and establish control over Middle Earth, and
Mhm.
she's his one of his biggest, if not the biggest, liability. So I
Right.
don't know why he saved her, because he saved her. She was going to drown. She was down there, like she was going to drown. So I don't know. I don't know. But then again, because then she owes him her life. Then perhaps that's why he saved her.
Right.
At this point, it could be that he is Sauron. If it happens, I will be disappointed that I saw it from the beginning. That said, maybe it was meant to be dramatic irony. Maybe we were meant to think he was Sauron all along and not and be able to enjoy that secret because Galadriel doesn't realize it.
Mhm.
We'll see. I mean, it sort of seems like he's Sauron since he's king of the Southlands, which is now Mordor, or about to be Mordor proper.
Right.
I don't know. I
Right.
still think it could be the stranger. I really hope the stranger is a blue wizard. I think those priests from Rune from the
Mhm.
last episode, I think they may have been shapeshifted into wolves. And
Mhm.
those may have been the wolves. I don't know. I don't know. I
That's interesting.
I think that Halbrand could be Sauron. I still hope he's not. I think he's
Mhm.
just going. I hope he's going to be a king of men. I hope he's going to be the Nazgul or
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Sauron. Or my biggest hope for Halbrand is what I said before. I hope that he is the king of the dead. That eventually
Mhm.
Aragorn uh, demands them fulfill their oath to set them
That'd
free.
be cool.
That would
That
be
would be.
a great storyline to use and lace in, but I think he's more important than that. That's my fear. I think they're making him into something more important. So
He's the mouth of Sauron.
yeah, maybe, but that's in the extended edition only. So
Uh, so maybe not.
maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It could go either way at this point. That scene was stupid. Again, there was an editing issue in that where the whole scene with Isildur's horse should have happened either immediately before that or after it, not in between the key getting put in, the sword getting put into the keyhole, the dam opening, and the water coming exploding out of the tunnels.
Yeah, it didn't bother me as much because it it drew out the suspense ever so slightly,
Yeah.
and it was a really nice moment between Elendil and Isildur. It was again, it was a choice. I think I see why they did it. They could have chosen to do it another way, the way that you're suggesting, and I don't know. I think that's the purpose that it served, but I don't disagree with you per se. It didn't rub me, it quite rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
All
Then,
right.
of course, the big reveal. Here we go.
Well, us nerds knew what was coming. I didn't know it was going to happen in this episode, but I knew it was going to happen soon. One or two episodes back, Bronwyn says something along the lines of the orcs reaching Orodruin,
Uh,
and that is Mt.Doom. That's the name of Mt.Doom. So nerds know that that's Mt.Doom. So I knew it was coming. I knew we were going to see it. I didn't know it was going to happen in this episode, and I didn't know it was going to happen that way with the sword. Now, my hope is that's not the end of that sword. I
yeah.
hope that's not the only purpose of that really, really cool sword. I hope not. I hope that sword becomes like, I don't know, something nasty.
Yeah. or like forge down into the One Ring or something. But yeah, the special effects in that scene were fucking spectacular. I cannot wait to find out whether or not that fire is going to be hot or cold. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
That's a thought I've not had.
yeah. Well, because we see, did you watch the preview for the next episode?
Yeah, but I don't remember it.
There was that moment where Galadriel is like in the smoke and surrounded by all the things. I think it's going to be revealed to her that there's no heat. It's all ice cold.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't think so. I don't I don't think so because we saw people get demolished by fireballs.
Yeah.
It could be. I like the thought that the torches, it's so evil that snatched the warmth from the torches. But I think so evil manifested in so cold up there. And the only person who didn't have hot fire before was the stranger, and he's not there. But maybe that means the stranger is Sauron. I don't know.
Could be.
No.
Could be. Might be one of the ways they tie it all together.
Great episode.
Great episode.
The most fun ride.
Yeah.
I hope this is a good omen for bigger and better battle sequences and action sequences and special effects and disasters. We know there's going to be a couple more disasters, at least
Yeah.
one of which we've already had explicitly alluded to, um, with Mariel looking through the Palantir. But
Mhm.
I loved the episode. It was
Right.
a wonderful ride. It wasn't exhausting. It wasn't jumping back and forth, and it never lagged.
No, it really didn't. It was very exciting. It was very exciting. Speaking of very exciting, House of the Dragon this week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was so intense. And actually, ironically enough, there was about a 10-minute long scene in it that was as dark as the Southlands are now going to be after that erupted.
Yeah. Thank you for advising me before I watched the episode to make sure I watched it in a dark room. Because when it happened, I was like, I must turn all the lights off to see this dragon.
That was a very interesting choice that they made there. I don't understand why they intentionally made that choice because then HBO went out of their way to make it clear that that was an intentional choice on all their social media.
Really? Oh, because people complained.
Yep.
That's what happened with the Army of the Dead fighting. Was like sounded scary.
It was so stupid. Let's not even talk about season 8. But yeah, no, this episode, other than that, like whole darkness thing, was fucking spectacular. I love that we were on Driftmark for the entire episode. I love that there's all those fucking dragons flying around. That was so cool.
Yes.
The funeral scene was gut wrenching, and yes,
Yes.
you do an amazing job of capturing everyone's perspective within the scenes.
Yes. I know. I gotta tip my hat to the creators of this show because they are juggling everybody's plot line very, very, very well. It's very commendable, in my opinion. As an audience member, I am jumping in and out of the heads of each of these characters, and they did it so wonderfully, deliciously, one might say, at the funeral.
Yep. Yep. My favorite episode of the entire my favorite moment of the entire episode was during the funeral. And it was a very, very small moment. But when Corlys Valerian's brother is eulogizing Lena, and he's talking about how the Valerian seed is strong, and then looks at Rhaenyra and her two bastard children, and the children realize what's going on, and then Rhaenyra realizes what's going on, and then Daemon clocks Rhaenyra realizing what's going on, and then he laughs to divert all of the attention away from Rhaenyra and her kids, was a fucking beautiful moment.
Exactly. It's a great example of what we're talking about that is lacking in Rings of Power.
Yeah.
It's nuanced, it's subtle, it is deeply rooted in the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
and it was efficient.
Yeah.
It's good writing.
Better writing. That's exactly what it is. It's better writing. The scene where Rhaenyra tells Jace to go comfort his cousins was really beautiful. I really loved when they were on the ship going to Driftmark, how uncomfortable Alicent was around Sir Larys or around Larys Strong. Now,
Oh
how she is.
yeah.
Oh man, their dynamic is fucking great.
Yeah. What was my thought about him this time? Amazingly manipulative. Talk about
Oh
calling in a favor.
yeah.
He's like Randall from Recess.
Oh my god, great reference. That's
He's like
hilarious.
he's like uh a bit like Grima Wormtongue from Two Towers. Uh he's like, but he's also totally him.
Yeah.
Totally his own entity and character. He's not phoning in necessarily all these other similar types of characters, but he is reminiscent in a very, very good way. So
Yeah.
calculated,
So
so sociopathic.
yeah. Yeah. So that scene was amazing. I love the expanding relationship between Sir Kristen and Alicent. Um Alicent is gonna get herself killed if she's not careful. She's a fucking nightmare. Aegon is a nightmare. That scene where Otto Hightower picks up
Ega.
after the funeral was incredible. I'm so glad Rhys Ifans is back.
Me too.
He's my favorite actor on the show, I think.
He's up there for me. Yeah. Yeah. Um the also like, I mean, okay, when Alicent went crazy. Oh, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So then Aemon has been hawking Vagar,
Yep.
hawking Vagar, and finally pushes himself to do it.
And that little fucker now has the most powerful dragon in the entire fucking world.
And you were rooting for him. I
Yeah.
was rooting for him until I realized he
Yeah.
stole it
Yeah.
from Lena's daughter.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, no. Like,
Because that scene was unbelievable. And you're like, oh, yeah, amazing, perfect, totally. And then you realize that what that actually means. And you're like, well, fuck.
I know, exactly. Yeah, it was like, you know what? This isn't okay, actually. This is actually very much not okay. But how cool is it that Otto Hightower knows that now he has a full house? He has a royal flush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the scene between Otto and Alicent was fantastic when he was like, I didn't think you had it in you, but now I know you do.
Oh, the fatherly pride in the most unlikely situation.
That shit was insane. Like, oh god, the writing in this episode was so fucking good.
It really, really was.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how much meteor Rhys Ifans' role is going to get, especially as Viserys gets more and more indisposed. Oh man, the Viserys meltdown during the confrontation scene. So okay, so Aemon steals Vagar. The kids confront Aemon. They have their fight. He calls them bastards, and then he gets his eye fucking gouged out, which his sister predicted the week before.
Mm-hmm.
Elena Targaryen, and then because she's a dragon dreamer, and then we have the whole scene with everyone, and that whole fucking scene was unbelievable. The fact that Laenor was nowhere to be found was insane. Rhaenyra stepping up, mama bearing for her kids, Alicent absolutely losing her mind and telling Sir to gouge one of the heirs to the throne's eyes out.
In front, yeah. It was like, yeah. And then, oh, but also the fight that happened, that initiated that, like the fight among the children.
Was epic. Was so good.
Oh, those actors are incredible. Everybody was so spot on. Everybody was so very much within their character, and the dynamic among the different households and the strange sense of loyalty
Yep.
found among Rhaenyra's kids and
Mhm.
Damon's, which of
Yep.
course like was saying setting the foundation for what how the episode ended.
Yep.
How Aemon was just he got drunk on power immediately.
Immediately. Which how could you not? You're basically sitting on the back of a B-52.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like we've all had that fantasy of like going back in history and taking like an M60 with you to the Crusades. Be like,
Oh
you're
yeah.
gone. Like, so
God
yeah,
built it.
in true American fashion. Ugh. So then
We already have.
then the probably the other most important detail of the whole episode is Damon and Rhaenyra banging on the beach, deciding they're going to get married, killing Laenor, which I loved that reveal. That was great. That was a major departure from the books, actually.
Really?
Huge departure from the books. And honestly, I love that rewrite, to be totally honest. I think that is a fantastic.
He actually kills him. He has him kill him.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing with Sir Carl, I love that he gets they get their happy ending. Like Rhaenyra, as much as Laenor was not ever there, as much as both of them weren't ever really there for each other, it is very obvious they care about each other. The scene between Laenor and Rhaenyra after the whole conflict was really fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. It's refreshing to see that kind of dynamic in a relationship where it's purely a facade, it's a
Yeah,
sham,
yeah.
uh, and yet they still, like you said, they still cared for each other.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was important to her. Like I was shocked when they killed him, when we thought that they killed him. That was fucking horrible.
Oh, I know.
Rhaenys finds him, and then Corlys being like, "How could you let this happen in my house?" That was amazing.
I know. I felt really bad. I think I felt the worst for the Valerians.
Yeah, well, because we're watching their house crumble in real time, so
Yeah.
that's great. And then the Valyrian wedding, that was one of the coolest things because there are so few
The
bits of
Targaryen
Valyrian.
wedding.
The Valyrian wedding, not the Valerian wedding, the Valyrian wedding.
You know what? You
Damon
on my case for people in Lord of the Rings all having the same name, and you don't even have the decent
names. It's every character in Lord of the Rings.
Laenor, Lanus, Lenore, Lana, Lanham Strong, Taint Man Magooch, and Gooch Man McTaint. Nah, don't act like Game of Thrones is not guilty of. I'm not gonna take it.
So fine, but the Valarians and Valyrians of the blood of old Valyria, the wedding between Daemon and Rhaenyra was a traditional Valyrian wedding. Them binding their hands in blood, cutting their mouth, their hands and their lips with the dragon glass, the robes and all that. That shit was beautiful. That
Well,
was
then
something.
what's the difference? I don't know what the difference. I got a stupid question for you. What's the difference
Okay,
between
the
Valerian and
Valyrian
Targaryen?
the Targaryens came from old Valyria and then were forced into the faith of the Seven by the Septons in Westeros.
Okay.
The faith of the Seven and the Targaryens have constantly butted heads because the faith of the Seven does not condone incest. And the Targaryens all fuck and marry each other. So they kind of had to end that practice of specifically marrying like siblings. Like I guess they allowed cousins and stuff like that to happen, but direct siblings they stopped allowing that. Like Aegon the Conqueror had his two sister wives, right? So they had to abandon their religion and value and traditions from old Valyria and join the faith of the Seven. But this was them fully abandoning that, saying fuck that, fuck you, we're going to do our own thing. It's not going to end particularly well for them, but they're going to do their best to adhere to their traditions and the way they want to do things. So the Valyrian wedding in Dragonstone was beautiful. I really loved that.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know how to describe it. Such a mood, something very bizarre and uncomfortable, and yet beautiful in its own right.
Especially with all their kids sitting there watching that too. Ugh.
Yeah.
That was not great.
I thought when Aemon was storming the beach at night, he was going to expose the two of them.
That would have been really funny if he stumbled upon them. That would have been pretty good. Like very much a Bran discovering Jaime and Cersei kind of thing. And that's how he loses his eye. Yeah, that was why.
Was much better how he lost his eye, because he was the instigator. We know that. That's the dramatic irony, is we know that he was the instigator of all that. Irony.
Yeah, I think Paddy Considine needs a shout out too, because he handled his temper tantrum when all that was going down was pretty fucking epic, and his absolutely shit futile attempt to shut it down, because now he sees that this is so far out of hand. He just wants to be happy grandpa, but nope, everyone's gonna kill each other because he's an idiot.
Yeah, but his experience, Paddy Considine's acting was so good it made my stomach turn.
Yeah,
out of embarrassment and shame. Oh, yeah. Writhing is the word.
Yeah. Also, one last little detail: when Daemon sees Otto at the funeral and he makes that joke about the leech always wanting more blood, Otto was the one driving the leeches.
Oh,
and trying to keep the king unhealthy and get him to die quicker.
Wow.
That other maester in like episode 3 or 4, where he was like, herbs, that dude saved Viserys's fucking life.
Yes. Yeah, you brought that up. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought it was a great quip.
Yeah. Nope. That shit was on purpose. Because I do wonder if that is going to be, because again, the High Towers are from Old Town, which is where the Citadel is. And I do wonder if they're going to tie in the Grand Maester conspiracy, that the Maesters have been the ones manipulating history this entire time and have been slowly trying to kill off the Targaryens because the Maesters hate magic.
This is a bigger fan theory that's been circulating.
Yeah, this is a huge fan theory. Hold on, Grand Maester. Let me bring this up and I'll find it good. All right, the Grand Maester conspiracy explained. A tea, my lady.
Yeah, and see, I told you, like that line is so present and apparent. And a tea, my lady.
So, what is the Grand Maester conspiracy? In the Song of Ice and Fire books, there are a few characters who express their distrust of the Maesters. In Dance of Dragons, a northern lady named Barbary Dustin calls the Maesters gray rats and points out the fact that they hold a great deal of power over the lords they serve. For instance, Maesters write and send all of the letters for their lords, and they could very easily manipulate the words for their own ends. This woman also suggests the Maesters orchestrated the events that led to the Roberts Rebellion and the displacement of the Targaryen dynasty. The evidence for this is pretty scarce, but it's true that the lords and ladies of Westeros put blind faith in the Maesters and trust them with pretty much everything. The Maesters are also directly in charge of the healthcare of their lords and have extensive knowledge of not only medicine, but poison. In House of the Dragon, Grand Maester Mellos has been giving Viserys questionable treatments for his wasting disease. His favorite method of treatment is leechings, which we in the 21st century know does not work. And We Like the Way, the younger Maester Orwild suggests giving Viserys some kind of medicine to treat him, which Mellos rejects, saying that using leeches, quote unquote, always helps. If that were true, then why does Viserys never seem to get better? Judging by his condition in episode 5, Viserys can barely stand on his feet. But what is it the maesters are purportedly conspiring to do? The idea is that the maesters are an order who prize logic and reason above all else. They are distrustful of all things magical and wondrous, which means they are distrustful of dragons. We get more evidence for some kind of conspiracy in Feast of Crows. Sam Tarly arrives at the Citadel, meets a man named Marwyn the Mage, an archmaester known for his eccentric behavior and expertise in magic. Marwyn is somewhat of a pariah at the Citadel because of his dabbling in the magical arts and because he spent years in Asai. Anyway, Marwyn briefly grills Sam about his encounters with the White Walkers and then declares he is leaving Old Town to seek out Daenerys. Cool. It's noted that the High Towers are one of the most powerful houses during the time of Dance of Dragons, and they are the main supporters of the Maesters because they rule over Old Town. There are many scenes where Melis is seen talking or exchanging looks with Hand of the King Otto Hightower and his brother Hobart. While this doesn't necessarily mean anything, it is a curious detail that could possibly come into play later. I am very curious to see if they do put any of the Grand Maester conspiracy on screen, because that would be really fucking cool.
It's a great conspiracy. It's such a cool underlying storyline.
Yeah. So a lot to see in this episode. I do think we are still pretty far from the actual Dance of Dragons, where with dragons flying in the air and everyone trying to kill each other. I am very curious to see if Viserys is actually going to die in the next episode.
Every episode.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a funny TikTok about this. This is the last thing, and then we could go to our favorite parts of the week. But Ned Stark, the most honorable man in Westeros, got his head cut off, granted by Joffrey, for questioning the legitimacy of the king's heirs. How is Sir Criston still alive? Sir Criston Cole committed open treason in public, in court, by accusing the children of being bastards. How does that motherfucker still have a head?
He's going to get his. I know he's going to get his.
Anyway, what were your favorite parts of the episodes this week?
In Game of Thrones. I'm sorry, in House of the Dragon, my favorite part was the court the court scene.
Oh yeah.
The injury and the acting between the two old friends, between the Queen and Rhaenyra.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Rhaenyra defended her boys, the way that Alicent was unyielding was incredible to watch.
Yeah, it really was
mad. And the way that Rhaenyra found the high ground and was able to take the high ground and save face. I loved that.
Yep.
In Rings of Power, my favorite part was Adar.
Yeah, Adar was amazing this week.
Adar continues to carry such weight.
Yeah.
His performance has carried so much weight in those portions.
Right.
Southlands.
Yeah.
Joseph Maul.
Joseph Maul, the actor who plays Adar.
Uncle, yeah, wasn't he Uncle what's his name? Stark?
Benjen. Wait,
Benjen,
really?
Yeah, Benjen Stark.
What? No way.
Didn't know this? You won't let up about Robert Aramayo being young Ned Stark, and you didn't recognize Uncle Benjen this whole time.
Wait. What's the name? What's the actor's name again?
Joseph Maul.
Shut the fuck up. Oh, what? No way. Wait. No fucking way. Are you what? How did I not? That's embarrassing.
A tea, my lady.
A tea? I might need a tea, my lady.
Yeah.
Well,
could have any unwanted consequences.
A tea. Okay, my favorite part of House of the Dragon, besides the scene where the greens and the blacks really choose their sides, was just thinking about how Sandy, Rhaenyra, and Daemon must have been putting all their clothes back on after having sex on the beach.
I
All
know.
those things. Oh my god. Oh my god. And covered in. No, my favorite was when Damon laughed at the funeral. That little detail was spectacular.
Yeah, I missed this flow of beats that led up to that. But you pointing it out, I'm like, oh yes, of course, that's why he did it. I thought he was just being typical Damon. I'm a jerk, you know,
Right.
do what I want. But he was like, haha, I'll do what I want in this moment and use that to draw attention away. That was brilliant. Yeah.
My favorite part of Rings of Power was, honestly, that was just so shocking at the end. Because like I did not expect that was what the tunnel was for.
Yeah, I just figured the tunnel was a way to get the orcs around during the
During
day.
the daytime.
I mean, Adar
Yeah.
says this, he takes that one last look at the sun, remember?
Right.
Because he knows what's going to happen.
Right.
He knew what was going to happen when he was being interrogated by Galadriel. Again, Adar, man. Joseph
Right.
Ball really got his big shot. His a bigger. I'm glad that he had more featured moments in this in
Yeah.
this role than he did as Uncle Benjen, which he was
Yeah.
great
Because
in too.
he's
But
a fantastic actor.
oh, he's really showing his chops. Incredible ability to play a villain. Dark,
Truly.
twisted, and sympathetic. Amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Nice.
Yep. Nice,
Great
dude.
insights. I love hearing you talk about Game of Thrones like that and
Hey, man.
recognizing all those little moments. Great and lines. It's great. I love how you put me onto that stuff.
Oh, thanks, dude. I'm glad you like it. Well, yeah, we did it. We'll see everybody next.
Thanks, everybody. Can't wait to
Bye,
see what
everyone.
happens next week. Bye bye.
Woo. Tomorrow night after the game.